Well, hey, buddy, I missed you. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I know it was a long weekend. I thought about you all weekend. I'm so glad I get to come back and hang out with you because we're going to start off with what you think is a pretty easy question. What the hell's going on with people supporting murderers? And it's different because, you know, two of our top stories that I don't even want to talk about, they're just trending out the wazoo. So, and I know we're talking about them because I know my friends were talking about it over the weekend. But the local one is Carmelo Anthony. The national version of that story is Lindsey Clancy. Now, you could say on one hand that the Carmelo Anthony supporters, you know, and this is kind of an 80-20 issue from your observation. About 80% of the country or people who are familiar with this case believe Carmelo Anthony's a murderer. And it's got to be less than, it might even be only 10% people still support him. But who is this fringe group that still supports him? Well, you would say, well, they're doing this based on racism. These are tribally thinking people that have been whipped up in such a frenzy of anti-white racism that they will stick with their kind no matter what the situation at all costs. That is their primary belief structure and motivation. And so then you go up to Lindsey Clancy and you say, well, why is this? Because this looks like an 80-20 split here. 80% of the people believe that, yeah, that's murder and there's no excuse for it. And it may be down to like less than, it's probably the same as Carmelo. There is a vocal fringe minority on this case that supports her. It was like, listen, she was on all kinds of antidepressants. She has postpartum depression. We think her husband might have told her to do it. And these people are also rushing to the defense of someone who is, looks like a murderer to me. But you can't say it's because they're anti-white racist. So what is there is a connection here in the fact that people are rushing to defend a killer. But where does this mindset come from? You can't just be so reductive as to say racism. You can't just be so reductive as to say feminism or fourth wave feminism, whatever we're on now. But I'd like to hear your theory, 800-288-9227. The Carmelo Anthony case is not done. Now, he did last week get a new judge, and they reviewed for a retrial. The retrial did not happen, but we still have the appeals process, which is a separate thing. WFAA did a great summary this morning.
Carmelo Anthony's attorneys say their fight for a new trial is not over.
Yeah, this weekend, a judge denied an appeal for a new trial after a jury convicted Anthony of murder. In June, Anthony was sentenced to 35 years in prison after stabbing Austin Metcalf to death during a Frisco track meet last year. A judge denied his legal team's motion for a new trial after 2 days of explosive testimony. It included information not presented during the initial proceedings. In a statement, Anthony's attorney said, in part, we respectfully disagree with the ruling and remain firmly committed to protecting our client's rights.
His attorneys are now appealing the decision to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. A panel of judges will review the trial record and decide if there were any legal or constitutional errors. If Anthony's attorneys are unsuccessful there, they can ask the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals to review the case. The judge who denied Anthony a new trial hasn't said why he made that decision, and under Texas law, he's not required to.
Okay, so that's the latest on the Carmelo Anthony. You know, we're not done with this story. You know, this is what happens with pretty much every murder case. Think of all the murders, the other murders that have happened in Dallas over the last calendar year or so, or just since this Carmelo Anthony murder. You know, we have mass shootings. We had like the triple murder at the Airbnb party over Memorial Day. We had the multiple murder at the after hours party in Fort Worth. We had another mass shooting at the Stop Six Park. I mean, how many of these do you get the regular updates on? Do you get all the motions, the motion to recuse a judge, the motion for a retrial, the motion for an appeal? Are you getting regular updates on all those? No? Why not? Oh, that's right. It doesn't drive us apart. You know, without this constant selective reporting, Whites and Blacks would be getting together a lot better than they are now. And instead of being turned on each other, we would be turned at the government and saying, hey, we need to do something about those guys. We need to do something about the deficit spending. It's giving all of us about 3, maybe 4% pay cut this year. And it doesn't matter if you're a pasty old white guy, looks like a sheet of printer paper, or if you're a brother, if you're a Hispanic, if you're an Asian. We should all be equally concerned about these very important topics that directly affect us all. We need to get past this backbiting stuff, but the news won't let you. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Like, here's a story that was on, I saw it on Friday. Any big updates? Did you hear about anyone talking about this over the weekend?
Following breaking news from overnight in Dallas, police are investigating a person who was found shot to death in an apartment complex. It happened around 1:30 on South Cockrell Hill Road in West Oak Cliff. When our crew arrived, we saw crime scene tape stretched across that complex. Now, investigators say there was a disturbance inside an apartment. Neighbors heard gunshots, then called police. One person was found dead in a stairwell. Another person showed up to the hospital injured. We're working to learn if police are searching for any suspects.
Yeah, did we find out who it was? Anybody concerned? Anybody call Benjamin Crump? Anybody set up a GoFundMe account? Anybody raise $800,000 for their legal defense? Or for their family or for whomever? Is the family coming out and calling for an independent investigation because they don't trust the autopsy reports from the powers that be because he was with white people beforehand? No. They're not going to tell you the details of this story because it's not going to be the constant drip, drip, drip reminder that you're supposed to hate America, that you're supposed to hate white people, that you're supposed to hate your neighbors. You're supposed to be very suspicious and afraid and scared and it's dangerous. It's not. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we have a spokesman from the Donald Trump camp who's going to talk about, number one, he's coming to Dallas in a couple weeks. And number two, there's a lot going on in the news. I'll ask about both coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, homeowners, if you live way out in the middle of nowhere like I do, and you're worried about, well, I could call Blue Ribbon Roofing, but are they going to come all the way out to, Hooterville or Petticoat Junction or wherever you live? Well, they came all the way out to Bug Tussle where I live, so probably so. In fact, I've heard John tell stories about some house that they did a roof for in Bryan College Station, that whole area. Well, how far do you go? So don't worry about it. You don't have to be the Tenderfoot City Slicker to take advantage of the great Blue Ribbon Roofing. It is a family-owned business, been here in North Texas for over 30 years. I think like 33 years now. And John's been getting up on roofs for the last 3 decades. He'll come get up on yours. Just go to blueribbondfw.com. Check out some of the 5-star reviews that your neighbors have left. That'll make you feel a little bit better before you schedule your free inspection. Doesn't cost anything to find out. If there's something wrong with your roof, then we'll talk about how to fix it, maybe get you on a payment plan, and definitely help you with that pain in the neck insurance paperwork. So if you have any questions about your roof, get the free inspection. Go to blueribbondfw.com. Trump is coming to town. Trump's coming to town in like what, 2 weeks? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. September 9th and 10th is the midterm convention. This is a first of its kind. I bet you we just do this every 2 years from here on out. But September 9th and 10th is the Republican midterm convention where I'm sitting, not in this studio, but I'm at the American Airlines Center. And so it's going to be the biggest political party in the country going on. And Donald Trump is coming to do the headline primetime address for the September 10th date. So those 2 days, just turn on WBAP. But my next guest is a deputy press secretary for Donald Trump, Anna Kelly, who also kind of looks a lot like Miss Parker, almost like strangely so. Thank you very much, for coming on the James Show, Anna. So how long, when is Trump coming to town? Is he just going to come into town on September 10th, do his speech, and get the heck out of here? Is he going to spend some time in Texas?
Well, I'm not able to preview his exact plans quite yet, James, and thank you for having me on. But I know that the president does have, I believe, a couple days scheduled in Texas, as he mentioned, attending that midterm convention. And I'll note from this particular job, I am a little bit limited in what I can say about the midterms. But I'll say the president is certainly, as always, going to give a rousing speech. He'll be with a large group of supporters, as you said, in Texas, talking about his overwhelming agenda to make America great again and all of the promises he made to Texans and all Americans back in the past election that he's resoundingly delivered upon.
Well, Anna Kelly, a lot of people are taking the idea of a midterm convention and sticking it in Texas as maybe the Republicans are concerned about losing the Senate seat to Tallarico.
Well, again, James, I'm limited due to the Hatch Act and what exactly I can comment on as far as elections themselves go in this White House role. But
all right.
I mean, look, the contrast is clear between Republicans and Democrats, I'll say more broadly, right? You have Democrats who have all along the past year and a half tried to obstruct President Trump's agenda to deliver on all of the promises he made to Texas, of course, a state that he won resoundingly in 2024. In all Americans, the president has taken incredible actions to lower costs, to establish Trump accounts for American children, to unleash American energy, of course, a promise that is very important to folks there in Texas. So, Democrats, unfortunately, have routinely obstructed these overwhelmingly common sense and popular policies that are ultimately what got President Trump elected in the first place. And the president, I think, needs everyone's help to continue making America great again and delivering on all of the promises he made back in 2024.
Anna Kelly, are you in the running to replace Carolyn Levitt, or do we know who the replacement is?
Well, I'll note that I am focused on doing my job, James. I've been here actually really since the campaign. The fun fact is I used to share an office with Caroline back on the campaign, so that's kind of a big reason why I'm here. And I'll say she has been the most incredible boss, the most incredible person to learn from. Just as a communicator, she's also just an incredible mom and an incredible person. So we're certainly sad to see her go. I think the president, of course, is going to make his choice on his own timeline, as he always does. But as for me, I'm focused on doing my job and working on the president's behalf here for the American people.
All right, we're talking with our guest is Anna Kelly, a deputy press secretary in the Trump administration. Today, Scott Bessent came out, Treasury Secretary, announced some furthering sanctions, not just on Iran, but anyone who does business with Iran. And I think the term economic asphyxiation, I think that might stick.
Well, I think it's absolutely true that, Iran has unfortunately, as you know, been totally decimated militarily. That, of course, was on their own volition after failing to abide by the historic MOU agreed upon by the United States and Iran. Now they are being totally strangled economically. You have between Operation Economic Fury 1.0 and now, they have been totally crippled. They're unable to pay their people. Their currency has hit historic devaluation. So, they're continuing to be absolutely choked by these economic actions in conjunction with the very successful blockade that the United States military has imposed upon Iranian ports. That's totally inhibiting their ability to sell oil, which we know is the lifeblood of that country. So the president, as you said today, is taking action not only to introduce new actions to further strangle their economy, but also talking to those who are continuing to help prop up this regime. This is a regime that, as you all know, as your listeners know, has chanted death to America for 47 years, has killed our troops overseas, and is also, as we've observed now, is perfectly willing to unleash terrorist actions upon our allies in the region. And so it's in everybody's best interest for those actions to stop. We can never let this terrorist regime have a nuclear weapon. And so the president, thankfully, is taking all avenues to do that.
Anna Kelly, we have some tariff escalation with Canada. Should we be concerned about our prices based on that?
Well, look at what this president has done all along the way. I mean, we had the first iteration of tariffs back in April of last year. The president has simultaneously taken historic actions to lower prices all across this country. So the president's going to keep doing what he's been doing, which is ensuring that the United States is treated fairly, that our farmers, our manufacturers, our workers are getting an even playing field all around the world, while simultaneously delivering on his agenda to unleash economic prosperity for all Americans. He's proven that he can do both, and he will continue to do both.
All right, one more question. Anna Kelly, did Lindsay Clancy do it? I'm kidding. You don't have to answer that. That's just a dumb other headline that I'm annoyed with. All right, thank you very much. Anna Kelly, are you coming in town for the convention, or are you allowed to say?
We shall see. I'm not sure quite yet, but I have been to Texas numerous times before, so I'd certainly welcome another trip back.
All right, well, if you end up down here, come say hi. We're right next door, or we're on the property. So Anna Kelly, Deputy Press Secretary of the Trump administration. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
All right, coming up next, I'm going to get you caught up on the hard news of the day that I think will affect your money. I'm talking the Canada tariffs. I'm talking the beef prices. I'm talking the budget, the economy. Money news next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, let's talk about some of these headlines that affect your money. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Because, the Carmelo Anthony case, interesting to talk about, interesting to break down the reactions of your neighbors to it. It doesn't really affect you much, right? Well, our next couple of stories definitely will affect you in some form or fashion if they're left unabated. First off, let's start with the new tiff we got going against our neighbors up in Canada.
In consumer news for you, a 50% tariff on Canadian goods is now in effect this morning.
Now Canada's Prime Minister is hitting back. Kara Sewell explains how this will impact shoppers. Good morning, Kara.
Good morning, and it will. This could eventually hit your wallet on both sides of the border. Canada's Prime Minister says the country will match that tariff dollar for dollar starting September the 8th. The two countries have been trying to reach a new trade deal for more than a year, but Canada rejected the latest offer. For consumers, that could mean higher prices on things like Canadian beer and whiskey, hockey equipment, even cement and other building materials. And some Canadian leaders want to go a step further, targeting U.S. oil and gas.
Not hockey equipment. How are we going to live without our... How am I going to live without my ice skating girdle? I don't know. But look, the big problem we got to watch out with Canada is they're so easily dismissed. It's just a country of 45 million people, maybe at the most. But we do have them as one of our largest trading partners. I mean, obviously so. It's just the giant country that's pretty much America's hat. And also, we don't want to tick them off even further because we do get a lot of oil from them too. So if they really wanted to escalate this and make this ugly, I mean, I guess they could, because the regular pushback on that is yeah, that would really stick it to us, but that would stick it to their people a lot worse. And I'm not so sure that they care about their people as their first priority. They haven't been overly concerned with individual rights, and we learned that ugly part of COVID. The other economic story. This affects me and you because, well, we're decent human beings who like to eat beef, and the beef prices have gone up. We have the smallest beef herd in America in 75 years. And look, this is going to be basic economics. What you are going to hear is Trump doing Keynesian economics. My complaint is as an Austrian economist, that this is a wrong-headed policy. However, Democrats themselves employ Keynesian thinking in pretty much every other economic measure that's not socialism. And so they don't have a right to complain either. But my complaint comes from there's no third party that's representing the economics that I think most of America would prefer in a situation like this. But we get the rundown here. This is a perfect 2 minutes here from my old station, KETK.
This could soon be coming down at the grocery store. President Trump announced this morning he's rolling out a temporary deal to lift tariffs on beef imports.
But some East Texas ranchers tell KETK's Ashlyn Anderson they are concerned about the quality of that meat. Even if prices do come down, she heard from them and is here with more. Ashlyn.
Casey Isaac, President Trump will soon sign off on more than 100,000 metric tons of imported beef into the United States. But East Texas ranchers are asking, where is the meat coming from? Do those countries have up to standard regulations? And when can local ranchers see relief?
All right, stop. Before we continue here, I just want to head this off. Some of you people know my email address, james@wbap.com, or you are friends with me on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. Do not send me the hack joke of where's the beef. Can we just not? I don't want to, because if I don't say that, I'm sorry. If I don't say that, I'm going to get 9 emails that say, well, where's the beef? We get it. We get it. Just let it go. Pay attention to the story, children.
Beef prices have climbed to record highs, but the price tag could soon lower.
I just raised cows.
On Friday, President Trump authorized 300.
Wait, did they interview Sling Blade there? I just raised cows. I like them French fried potatoes. Mm-hmm.
1,000 metric tons of beef to make their way into the U.S. That's equivalent to 3 aircraft carriers. Owner of Cut Beef in Tyler, J. Scott Herod, is concerned where the meat could come from.
Whether it be beef, chicken, pork, or any other farm-raised product, it's important to know where it came from and how it was raised.
Country Meat Market in Tyler says there is risk in the unknown, priding themselves on serving the best product to their customers.
Most of us would rather pay a little bit more and know what we're getting than to pay the same amount and get lesser quality.
The White House says removing tariffs from beef imports would drop overall prices by 25%. Herod believes the move would only benefit big box stores.
Very often people tend to price shop, and I get it. I'm a consumer too, and the wallet only stretched so far.
President Trump saying on Truth Social, this will give space for our, quote, great American beef herd to grow again. But Herod wants more relief as they face high diesel at the pump.
Today I filled up $5.39 a gallon.
And feed prices.
We're seeing a steady climb, plus the cost of labor, which we want everybody to be able to make a healthy living and provide for their family. So across the board, we're seeing things more expensive for us to raise a cow.
Continuing to provide quality meat to East Texans, but at what cost?
If you're going and you're bringing in meat from other countries of origin, then the time and energy being putting it into that, I'd prefer to see being put into our local ranchers in the United States.
The president says the deal only applies to ground beef and will last for only 90 days. In studio, Ashton Anderson, KTK News.
All right, this is all about the election. This is not smart economics. This is not long-term policy. This is not what's going to get our beef herd rebuilt. What it will do is this is a policy that's going to last 90 days, and so it'll run out. Let's see. Let me scratch my head and figure out what's going on. It is August now. And so September, October, November. Well, you mean the policy will end just a few weeks after the midterm election? Yeah, that's what it's all about. All right. So no, this is not good for our farmers. Absolutely not. It's not good for our ranchers. Now they're going to oversell how bad it is. Like, well, you can't trust meat from other countries. Yeah, you can. The problem that they're going to have here is the rising beef prices is what is going to drive up the cattle herd. Oh, you want people to have more cows? Make it more profitable for them to have cows. And if you bring in a policy that is going to squish the price of cows, albeit just for, 90 days or so, then that is going to put downward pressure on the growth of the herd. So long-term speaking, this isn't about growing the herd. This isn't about fixing our trade deficit when it comes to cows. This is about making sure when the people go to the ballot box in November that the price of beef isn't something that could be used as a bludgeon against Donald Trump. That's it. There's no real economic philosophy underpinning behind it. I mean, it's sort of Keynesian in its nature, with the stimulus program garbage. But that's all I see. That's all I hear. That's just all about the midterm election. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, I'm going to ask a really tough question here. Does the WNBA secretly like all of this attention? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right. Do you think the WNBA secretly likes all this attention, even if it's kind of bad? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. If you haven't been following along, I get you all caught up in 3 simple sound bites here. First off, you know the WNBA is in the controversy because they forgot what a woman is. Now, they started this league 30 years ago, predicated on a women's only league. You ask them here in 2026, what's a woman? They don't know. They actually had a commission put together, and the commission was stumped. So there's been the issue of people playing in women's sports in other leagues that has posed a problem. Some people are trying to head that off over here by getting them to clarify their policy. They're not clarifying their policy. So in the limbo, some activists have spoken up. Inez Cantor changed his name to Inez Cantor Freedom, former NBA player, 6'10", declared for the WNBA draft because he's a woman now, and he's either going to get them to change their policies or reject them on some other grounds. But he's trying to force the issue of them actually defining woman in a way that it's going to tick off the woke crowd. And the WNBA, this is why you don't do politics in sports. You've now painted yourself into a corner, WNBA. Now you either have to tick off the woke crowd or you have to tick off the crowd that doesn't think men can have babies, and it's a lose-lose for you. All right, so here was Inez Cantor in a report on My View with Lara Trump on Saturday.
Bathroom with a biological,
Oh, wait, back at the beginning.
I believe, that the parents need to stand up for their children, because, if I was a parent, I wouldn't want my kid to be in the same locker room, same showers, or same bathroom with a biological, male. So, and I will, if my ever daughter came out and says, hey, I have a man or I have a biological male taking a shower in the same locker room as us, I will just go crazy. So I feel like this shouldn't even be like a right or left issue. This should be like a common sense. But I think America, we need more players more people like Sophie Cunningham to come out and stand for what they believe in.
Okay, and so then Inez Cantor was at a WNBA game this weekend. I believe this was just last night, wasn't it? And he got kicked out of the Chicago game. And we need to have a chat about these mascots, but just a second. Here he is. There's the lady coming down for Chicago. She makes a point, and then she just starts pointing and yelling at Inez Cantor, who is standing in the area where people are seated behind the basketball goal. So he's on eye level. He's on the same floor that she is. He's wearing a shirt that it looks like a dictionary definition. It says woman and then adult female, a human adult female, or whatever the simple definition is for it. And so he's just opening his arms. She's giving him the business, just cussing him out. And he ends up getting removed from the stadium.
6-point basketball game.
All right, she's yelling at him now. She just scored.
Natasha Cloud. And right before the break, this was the scene inside Wintrust Arena after Natasha Cloud got that bucket. She wanted her voice heard. We have talked about the conversations surrounding the W. That is Inez Cantor in the building today. And he has voiced how he's felt about the situation. Natasha Cloud voicing her opinion as well. Cantor was just escorted out.
All right, now the internet is brutal, y'all. The internet, first, Inez Cantor looked like he was having a good time. He looked like he was enjoying that entire process. He just has his arms open. He's wearing a shirt that says woman, noun, adult, human, female. And he's like, what's the problem? I'm not doing anything. I'm right here. Now, she is yelling, and you could tell pretty much on your own, but there was also a sports blog that had a lip reader on there, and she was saying, I'm that N-word, blah, blah, blah. But she was using the own racial slur against herself. Now, the internet, just absolutely without ruth. They are ruthless on the internet. They were pointing out that this woman, I'd never heard of her before, Natasha Cloud. She was actually raised by white parents. When her parents were obviously much younger, her mom had an affair with a black fella. The black fella absconded. The dad forgave the mom, raised her as his daughter, despite the infidelity. Gave her everything in life, put her through college, backed her up, gave her a better life than her real dad would have. And all she does is turn around and what? Turn into a anti-white racist, an activist. You should hear the things she's saying about white people over here on her social media feed. We won't get into that because I don't want to be bagging on Natasha Cloud. That's not the point. Now, here's the Linda Cohn show. Now, Linda Cohn is a WNBA commentator who probably doesn't share your politics, but she really would like for this to go away. And the obvious way to make some of this controversy go away is for the WNBA to just define what a woman is. What is your definition of a woman? Because once you get rid of this gray area, now we can all move to the next step. But until you do that, we are in this goofy, woke purgatory.
Indiana scores 113 points and sitting courtside, a former NBA center who wants to enter the WNBA draft next season. Yeah. Arguing with a Chicago Sky player before being kicked out. But this is no longer an isolated incident. Everywhere the Fever travel, the controversy surrounding Sophie Cunningham's comments seems to follow them. There have been rallies and counter protests in Seattle, in Portland, in Minnesota, in Chicago, in New York. Sophie has been booed. Fans have been confronted. And now the controversy has moved from outside the arena to courtside. The WNBA keeps saying it wants everyone to focus on basketball. Clarify your policy.
There you go. And she's someone who's, I believe, on the other side of the argument. We agree with that. Can you just clarify? Go ahead. You're going to tick off half of America either way. I think this is an 80-20 issue. I think if they come out on Inez Cantor's side and define a woman what you have agreed to the definition your entire life, that'll really only tick off about 20% of the population tops. But that's a very vocal, loud, hissy fit 20% of the population. And I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're just going to try and run out the clock on this, like never really give a definition and hope we all just kind of move on. And I don't know who's going to give first. 800-288-9227. Weird Al Yankovic is coming to Dickies Arena September 25th. The man, yeah, I know how to say it. The man, the myth, the legend, September 25th with special guest Puddle's Pity Party. Get tickets and information now at livenation.com. All right, we'll hear some of your response to the WNBA controversy. And then you're going to hear from Brandon Gill, local congressman, who was just trying to get a simple answer out of a guy who runs an immigration activism firm for a living. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You know, if all this happens, I am going to be watching the WNBA this year. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WNBA. WBAP. Oh, I'm such a big fan already. No, I guess I mean next year because Inez Cantor is declared for the draft of 2027. He and Royce White. Listen, here's what I really think is going to happen. They're going to find some reason to not let them be in the league. I think there's about a 0% chance they would let Inez Cantor or Royce White in the WNBA because they would dunk all over them and it would be embarrassing. Now, do I wish they would let them in? Of course I do. This is one reason I don't get upset about this. You have never heard me get mad about the WNBA situation. I think it's hilarious. I think it's an argument I knew you couldn't lose since day one, and you're just waiting for it to play itself out. Because this is, listen, I'm not anti-trans. I'm not WNBA. I want trans people to be happy, healthy, productive people of society. I want the WNBA to be profitable on its own and have a bunch of fans out there that can support it. I'm not wishing for the death or demise of anyone. But if you're going to tell me men can have a baby, I'm going to laugh and just wait for you to be proven wrong. Yeah, there's no difference between men and women. Why does every single Olympic and world record favor men? Have you not been looking around with your own eyeballs? Did you not go to high school? That being said, man, I really hope this happens. The 1% chance that it happens, I will watch. I would buy a ticket. Oh, that'd be delicious. Karen in Fort Worth, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
You know, this is the most insane thing, but the WNBA has been insane since the moment she stepped on the court. They cannot handle her once-in-a-generation talent.
Are you talking about Caitlin Clark?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Who else is there?
Well, I haven't said her name this entire segment, so it's probably worth mentioning. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. But this business of the trans athletes, okay, put them in there. I mean, what is the point of a women's league if men are going to play? And it is utterly ridiculous to think that they wouldn't be completely dominated by a high school boy.
I don't like how you sound upset, Karen. I don't know why everyone's not giggling at this because I have the exact same conclusion as you. Put them in. Oh, really? There's no difference. Put them in. Go ahead. See what happens.
Well, yeah, the reason I sound upset is that I am just angry about this issue. All it does is diminish women. We need to celebrate women. We need to celebrate men, but they cannot play sports together.
No, I tell you why you're upset. I tell you why you're upset. Because Karen, you know, so many people say, if I had a time machine, I would go back and I would kill baby Hitler. You know what I would do, Karen? I would go back to 1996 and I would tell the founders of the WNBA, you're not going to believe this, y'all. But in 30 years, y'all are going to have a league crisis based on the idea that you can't define what a woman is. And what? That doesn't make any sense, Parker. I'm like, I know. I don't know. Maybe y'all should codify it in the original charter of your league. I don't know. Just put in, add a corollary, add an appendix. Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina, something. And they're like, that doesn't make any sense. How could we forget over a 30-year span what a woman is when we've already had a 30-year precedent? I don't know. And Karen, we'll even try and nail down the timeline. So all right, future man, in what year do we forget what a woman is? And I'll say, well, we know you don't know in 2026, and we know you did know in 2017 because, Karen, you remember the day that Donald Trump was inaugurated? There was the Women's March where they're all wearing the pink hats in D.C. Remember the pink? We know what it really was. It was supposed to represent their genitalia. Do you remember that?
Well, I have to tell you, yes, I remember it. Certainly I remember it.
I
wish I'd been there.
So all of Team Blue agreed in 2017 that the defining characteristic of a woman is that body part. And between 2017 and now, they pretend to not know that. And so that's what I would do with the time machine. But I that's where your frustration comes from. That the cognitive dissonance of not being able to explain that's what makes most people upset. And I'm guessing that's part of what's going on in your head, Karen.
It's also autogynephilia, which scares the hell out of me. Every time I go in a restroom these days, I wonder if I'm going to see some freak in there.
Hey, congratulations for using that word. I did not know that word until I was doing a show in New Orleans, and my partner on the show was a closet trans, and I had a lot of conversations with him, and he you know, the way he described it to me, I was looking up all kinds of stuff back in 2011. And autogynephilia is what he falls under. He has autogynephilia.
Well, that is just sick. You know, there's just That's a real mental illness, and we have these crazy people. We're letting them in the prisons. We're letting them in the women's shelters. In London, there's a crazy autogynephiliac who was running a women's shelter.
Oh, my God.
This is totally off the charts, this insanity. And what it comes down to is it's a special kind of misogyny that we're going to let these men take a woman's place.
Isn't
they
it,
walk
though?
in there with their beards and their earrings. And Jesus, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But it's so horrible.
A special kind of misogyny is right. All right, Karen, best call of the day so far. Thank you very much. Hey, Garrett, Karen gets a full touchdown for that. 7 points. She made like 3 good points in a 2-minute call. Okay, 4-minute call. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, I'm going to break down some of the head-scratching parts of the WNBA surrounding mascots as well. So just stick with me through that. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Let's talk about these mascots in the WNBA for a second. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You know, the orientation and genital preference is getting way too much attention for a basketball league here. And guys on hold, don't worry. I'll get back to the topic at hand as far as the Inez Cantor freedom getting kicked out of the game, and are they going to define a woman and all this stuff. One of the things I found disappointing, and on one hand, this isn't a big deal. On the other hand, it's little deals like this that really add up and can make or break a league. And I think the mascots are terrible. Okay, here in Dallas, what do we have? We have the Dallas Wings. The hell's that mean? Well, is this like, were they in Paul McCartney's backing band after he broke up with the Beatles? Or were they in Wings? Was Wings from here? Are we renowned for our wings? It's not like plain wings either. I guess you could say like American Airlines is in Fort Worth and Southwest is in Dallas, so maybe the wings like that. No, it's like the feathery wings, like your Icarus, like you're a unicorn. What the hell is that? We're not renowned for our wings. It has no attachment. You got to be smart about that. Dallas Cowboys, Texas Rangers, Dallas Mavericks, Dallas Stars, San Antonio Spurs, Houston Texans, Houston Ash. See how they all are on brand? And then you have what? Dallas Wings. Oh, good job, guys. Good job. Just great branding there. How is that supposed to catch on? How that doesn't scream Texas. We're not proud of that. We're not proud to put that on a jersey. Hell, I've bought a Houston Texans jersey just because I'm a Texan. I'm like, hey, they named a team after me. I might as well get a shirt. But they were playing the game that they got kicked out of, and Inez Cantor got kicked out of yesterday. The Chicago Sky. The Sky? Everyone has access to the same sky at all times. There's nothing unique about the sky in Chicago. I mean, is it so far north it gets an aurora borealis? Do we not all have skies? What's going on here? Is that a play on words? No, it has nothing to do with the branding of Chicago. Chicago Blackhawks totally makes sense. Chicago White Sox, well, that's based on a tradition from their uniform. Chicago Cubs, I don't know, they have a bear or something. That one's kind of dumb. Makes about as much sense as the sky. And then Indiana fever. What even is a fever? Would you get malaria? Is Indiana known? Did they have a big malaria outbreak in the early 1800s? They were playing basketball dude, if you want this stuff to catch on, if you want it to be cool, if you want it to be embraced by the local fan base, you're off to a terrible start with these mascots. Las Vegas Aces, good one. That one makes sense. Seeing that they're known for gambling, and that's a card. Terry and Allen, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Yes, James. I believe that the problem with the WNBA question is that these liberal types feel that you are a woman if you think you're a woman. It has nothing to do with your physical attributes. If a man thinks he's a woman, he ought to be able to play on a women's team.
Okay, but that's going to get tested here, because now if that's all it takes, then all we need is some 6'10" guy to go, I'm a woman. And they either have to let Inez Cantor play, or they have to define a woman in a way that excludes Inez Cantor. So they've already painted themselves into the corner, Terry. And finally, we have someone who is forcing their hand by calling them on their BS that you just perfectly spelled out. The whole idea that you can I just feel like a woman, so you are a woman. It's so fun to watch, because this is not going to stand up to the real world.
I hope you're right.
Well, keep watching. How do you... Terry, is there a way that you lose this argument?
No, sir. Not in my view, not the way I look at the world, but the way they look at the world. It's got a question of freedom. They believe that you have the freedom to just think that you're a woman, and that makes you a woman.
Yes, but Terry, okay, so let's start thinking of what's really going to happen here. They're not going to let Inez Cantor play. So they are going to be forced to define a woman in a way that excludes him. Now, here's what I think they're going to do, Terry. They are not going to put pen to paper and, as the WNBA say, well, boys have a penis, girls have a vagina, or some variation of that. Of course, I'm paraphrasing and being reductive for comedy's sake. Here's what I think they're going to do, Terry. I think they're going to punt. I think they're going to say, well, we are going to defer to the official Olympic Committee rules on what they consider a woman, or the Federal International Basketball Association, their definition of a rules. They're going to punt this. In fact, I should have probably said this sooner and like mark this, and because this prediction will probably come true. Terry, they're never going to define women. They're going to say, well, we're just going to go by the definition of either the Olympics or the federal basketball people.
I think you're right. I thought we settled it back when the Russian women, we included some people who tested physically as men who were playing on the Russian women's Olympic team. I thought we settled that question back then.
Well, but when you say back then, do you mean in like the 80s? Because I remember when I was a little kid and they were still in East Germany, like there were these big women that showed up and they had like back hair and everything. It's like I don't know if those are women or those are dudes that you just been pumping bovine testosterone into for the last 4 years, but something's going on there. Thank you very much. That's Terry calling in from Allen. Let me squeeze in another one here. Eric in Midlothian, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Yeah, so my thought on this is no news is bad news, right? Everybody's talking about the crazy circus that's going on that they're encouraging. And
okay, look, that's a popular saying, but tell that to Bud Light after Dylan Mulvaney. I know, but continue. Didn't mean to throw you off. Go ahead.
No, that's just I can't believe that these people are that far out there that they're allowing assault on the court and saying the things that they're saying, that it's like it's an 80-20 issue and they're alienating themselves from 80% of the country. And it's just craziness.
Well, how many of these 80-20 issues are in the news right now? I think Carmelo Anthony is an 80-20 issue, but the people that are on his side, they don't recognize it. I think the Clancy murder thing is an 80-20 issue. And I hear other people in right-wing talk radio getting all upset. Look at all these crazy women defending her. I'm like, nah, that's like a very small fringe psycho group. Please do not extrapolate that out as to the normal train of thought. Even for our Team Blue neighbors, that's a fringe position.
Yeah, I think that's my thought on it.
Good stuff. All right. Yeah, because the SAVE Act's another one. Like 80% of the country wants the SAVE Act passed. And so I don't know if you enjoy as much as I do watching people try to explain to you every day how the 20% of an 80-20 issue is the rational, reasonable thing. And only a crazy person would think that we need an ID to vote, or only a crazy person or only a flaming racist Klansman would want Carmelo Anthony to go to jail, or only any of these. So this is going to come and hit a brick wall by the time the draft rolls around. That's my prediction. The WNBA will punt. Or I guess pass would probably be a better metaphor. Coming up next, you're really going to enjoy this audio of Brandon Gill trying to get a guy who works for a nonprofit political activist organization that helps illegal immigrants not be able to even tell you what an illegal immigrant is. Just pretend to not know. It's like the WNBA, but for illegal immigrants. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. If you could define this for me, it's precious. But it's the same mentality here. Like, you have to pretend to not know things that you know. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. James Parker here for QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics is the people you call when you want to get your life back. You used to not be like this. You used to get out of bed and be able to just hit the ground running. Now you get out of bed and what you got to do? You got to kind of stretch your back a little bit. You got to touch your toes. You got to kind of do some leaning over and kind of work out that pain. Don't do that. You don't have to do that anymore. And I don't know where it's at. Maybe it's your back. Maybe it's your knees. For a lot of people, it's your shoulder. I don't know what your injury is, but at least give QC Kinetics a call. Have the free consultation. See if they can even help you. And then if you know that they can help you, then we'll go to the next step. How long will it take? How much does it cost? What does it look like? Which one of the different treatments is going to work properly for you? And you can go to that next level. But just do yourself a favor. Find out. Call QC Kinetics today. The consultation doesn't cost you anything. And if it can fix your life and give you a better standard of living, isn't that worth it? 972-972-8610. Call QC Kinetics. Get rid of that pain. 972-972-8610. I'm starting to think Brandon Gill might be with us for a while. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. He's a congressman, and his district is sort of the part of the Denton area. And he's young. He's photogenic. He's well-spoken, articulate. And I'm allowed to say that because he's a white fella. I can't get in trouble for calling a white guy articulate. And yes, he is married into a royal family of conservatism, sort of. He's married to Dinesh D'Souza's daughter, and that doesn't seem to be really part of the allure, just a coincidence. But let me show you what I like about this fella. Brandon Gill, he's in a congressional hearing, trying to get a yes or no answer, pretty much just to taxpayer benefits for illegals. Now, I didn't catch the name of the guy he's talking to here. I think Newman, I believe his name. He's going to ask a couple questions from some guy who's also at the hearing, who's going to establish the numbers here. And then he's going to turn to this Newman guy. And the Newman guy works for a politically active nonprofit that advocates on behalf of illegal immigrants. Now, listen to how hard it is to try and get an answer out of this guy. But the thing I really want you to listen for is when the guy pretends to not know things that he knows. He pretends to not know what Brandon Gill is talking about when he says illegal immigrant. He pretends to not know what Brandon Gill is asking about. And it's that level where like you are actively pretending to not know. That's when I know you're a lying piece of garbage. When you're not trying to have a debate, when you're not trying to have a discussion, when you're not trying to get to the truth, when the language isn't a tool for the audience to understand your position, but a tool to obscure your position from the audience. That's when you're just a dishonest piece of garbage. Now, Brandon Gill will never have to say that. All he has to do is do this sequence. And everyone knows who the good guy is and who the bad guy is. So, and this will take a while, and I'll be starting stopping, but this is totally worth it. This is great. I think this was on Thursday or Friday of last week.
Mr. Krikorian, how many illegal aliens came into the country during the Biden administration?
Our estimate is at least 8 million, maybe as many as 10.
Maybe as many as 10. How many came into the country last year in 2025?
We don't know yet, but it wasn't anything close to that.
Not very many, so substantial decrease in
dramatic 90+% decrease at the border.
Got it. Mr. Newman, is it a good thing that President Trump secured the border?
I think that Stephen Miller has squandered what used to be a signature for
I'm asking if is it a good thing that our border is secure?
I think our border has been secure for quite some time.
Our border was secure during the Biden administration?
Yes, sir.
That is your testimony?
That's my belief, yeah. That's my opinion.
How many illegal aliens came into the country during the Biden administration?
Whatever it was a number that Mark Krikorian cited.
You don't give 10 million?
Came out of whole cloth.
It could have been quite a bit higher. So would you agree that there are fewer illegal aliens entering the country now than there were entering during the Biden administration?
That isn't an area of my expertise, so I wouldn't.
Hang on a second. That's not an area of your expertise. First off, you had enough expertise to know that, well, what Mr. Krikorian said isn't right. And you had enough expertise to be able to make a qualitative comparison, like on the orders of magnitude between the last two administrations on border crossings. So you have expertise to answer, to push back on those things. But when you're asked a direct question like, jeepers, I don't know if I can answer that. Lying to your face.
You spend a lot of time in the immigration space. You can't tell me whether there are fewer illegal aliens coming into the country now than there were during the Biden administration.
I mean, that is not something that's an area of my expertise. I've been spending too much time.
I think most people.
He works for a nonprofit that advocates for illegal immigrants. Oh, geez, I haven't really been keeping up with the flow of illegal immigrants in America. Are you kidding? That's like your number one job. That's like Hershey saying they hadn't been keeping up with the flow of chocolate. That's like Exxon saying, I don't know what the price of oil is. How could I know that?
Civil rights waivers.
can say there are fewer illegal aliens coming into the country right now. It's astounding that you won't at least admit that. Should illegal aliens receive taxpayer-funded unemployment benefits?
It's not an area of my expertise either. My concern primarily is
your organization promoted a petition telling Governor Newsom to sign AB 2847. This is your organization, the National Day Laborers Organizing Network. AB 2847 will provide unemployment benefits to workers who are ineligible to receive unemployment insurance solely due to their immigration status.
God, that is so good. God, that just makes me want to play like the little John Cena horns where it's like, oh my God, that's just a body slam off the top rope. Do you think illegal immigrants should get unemployment benefits? Oh, jeepers, I don't know. This is kind of above my pay grade. Well, here is, and he has a printout. Here's from your own website, you guys advocating for a bill that would give unemployment benefits to illegal aliens. So clearly you do. Hang on, we're not to the coup de grace yet. He's going to pretend to not know what an illegal alien is. This is fantastic. It's just so good.
Mr. Chairman, could I answer your first question?
Yeah, I'm asking you, do you think that illegal aliens should receive taxpayer-funded unemployment benefits?
Well, first off, I don't know what you mean by illegal aliens. If you're talking about residents in the state of California,
I'm people who entered our country illegally.
People come here for all kinds of reasons and
without documentation.
Residents in California.
This is a really simple question.
You're not ever going to get an answer. I just got to cut it off there. You have to pretend to not know what an illegal immigrant is. It's amazing how much of leftist discourse is just them pretending not to understand simple concepts so discourse becomes impossible. You can't lose this conversation if you can't agree on the term illegal immigrant.
Got 503.
So instead of saying things that he knows is politically unpopular and will make his side look bad, he just, I don't know.
Ask you another question. Your organization shut down the Manhattan Bridge during the rush
Another
hour
round of
a couple years ago to demand the New York State set up a $500 million fund
well
to
done,
give
sir.
unemployment benefits to illegal aliens.
800-288-9227.
You think that was a good thing to do?
288-9227. Coming up next on the James Show, we're going to take a look at some crazy candidates that keep getting elected to office and don't think Texas is immune to the woke mind virus in the midterms. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
That is your organization.
That is. You're holding up a sheet of paper. I don't know where that's from.
This is from your website. This is from the National Day Laborers Organizing Network website.
Peaceful protesters do things when there's large crowds of people.
Does that include shutting down one of the busiest bridges in the nation in order to push for a $500 million fund to give taxpayer-funded unemployment benefits to illegal aliens?
I think we should give.
You think that's a good thing for the country?
I think we should allocate resources accordingly to people who are going to become citizens of this country eventually.
What if there were emergency vehicles
as
trying
Mark
to cross
Krikorian
those
acknowledges, as Mark
You realize that there are people
acknowledges,
commuting
is
to work,
inevitable.
and the people commuting to work
You know, the midterms aren't looking so good for Texas. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You know, the polls have been saying for a while that James Tallarico is ahead of Ken Paxton in the race to be your next senator from the state of Texas. And a lot of people, the James Show included, we've been skeptical of the validity of those polls. They have let you down in the past, and by in the past, I mean pretty much every election this year. They were wrong about the election primary in Michigan by about 20 points. They were wrong about the Karen Bass situation in Los Angeles. But now we were looking at the betting markets, Kalshi, Poly Market, and they've actually turned slightly in favor of Tallarico. So if you're a Republican and you're worried about this, it's time to freak out. Now, me personally, not that exercised about it. People forget, I am not a Republican. I know I say bad things about Democrats on a regular basis, and Republicans enjoy that. But if the Republicans lose the House and Senate, I mean, it's not my preference. I think they do a better job governing than Democrats. But I'm not really going to go home and kick my dog or be upset about it, because, I mean, the Republicans still give us a $2 trillion deficit. Republicans, after the birthright citizenship Supreme Court case came out against them, within 24 hours, they should have had a bill that was at least presented in the House and Senate and saying, okay, we're starting the constitutional amendment process. There should have been a vote at some point on repealing Obamacare. Just put it out on the floor and at least try to vote on it. If you're not even trying to vote on it, then you get no credit. It's not like, well, we would if we had the votes, but it didn't pass. No, you didn't even try. They haven't got rid of the Department of Education. Of course, I would like for them to get rid of all the entitlements, all the welfare programs. I have a pretty serious wish list. And if you're like, well, that's fantasy, Parker, you're never going to get that. I'm like, no, this is all going to happen on a long enough time scale. It's just, is it going to happen on our terms, or is it going to happen after a collapse? Because the United States Department of Education will be finite. There's only two ways it's going to end: when this country collapses, or when we decide to end it ourselves. But let's go ahead and look at our own situation here in the great state of Texas. Because what Tallarico, unfortunately for him, seems to be tethered to, some of this seems to be out of his control. And in that, we may get lucky here, because there's a lot of DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America candidates, that are out there saying all kinds of crazy things. They hate white people. They hate this country. They hate Christianity. They hate Thanksgiving. And if Tallarico can be seen in that little cast of characters, the bar scene from Star Wars group of mutants, maybe Ken Paxton can eke this out. But check this out. Chris Matthews. I love hearing this stuff from Team Blue, because they're in an interesting position. The regular Democrats, like the reasonable Democrat wing, the Bill Maher's, the Mark Cubans, Chris Matthews, the Clintons. Heck, I would even put Biden in it. They all have their system of power now dependent on these candidates winning. If they want to win the Senate, then they've got to cheer for these socialists to win their races. And so now they can't really say anything bad about the socialists, but it's not as popular, and they know what the polling says for real. And so they're walking this really fine line here. They're like, yeah, I support Democrats, and we're a big tent. No, I don't believe everything that they say. But check out this stretch. Chris Matthews, these DSA candidates, and AOC, just as American as apple pie.
They're going to come up with something dirty. They're going to try to make all Democrats into something like the Marxist wing of the DSA. They're going to try to make it really bad. And I can see they can do something with the DSA, and they're going to make them into real Marxists. They're going to play the game. Personally, I think AOC is as American as apple pie. It won't work with her. It may work with some others, but I think they're going to get nasty, and I think it's going to be a really great close.
You know, I wish just in one sentence from one talking head on Team Blue, they would say something that nice about me. Just, it's never happened. No one's ever said, yeah, the rural, straight, white Christian males, they're just as American as apple pie. Show me where Chris Matthews has said that, and I'll offer a retraction tomorrow. And I'll buy you a Dr. Pepper, or a Dr. Pepper Zero if you prefer. Just this, because this is what I'm talking about. This American as apple pie. So a lot of people will hear that and they're like, oh, James doesn't think she's American because she's a person of color and he's a racist. No, that's not it. America is not dependent on a skin color. You may think, well, James doesn't think she's American because she has a Hispanic name and Hispanic background, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. He doesn't think that's American because it's not a Anglo-Saxon or Irish. It's not a white name. Well, first off, those are white names. Spanish is a white language. Spain is white people. It is European. So I'm no more of a colonizer than the Spanish are. So there's no real differentiation there. Plus, me and Miss Parker both have a sizable part of our family that's Hispanic anyway. So it's not a foreign. A Hispanic in America, that's not foreign. So no, that's not what I'm pushing back on, Chris Matthews. You know what makes her not as American as apple pie? That whole Marxism thing. And you don't have to be on 100% agreement with Benjamin Franklin, but you at least have to be in the ballpark of the founding fathers and individual rights and the Enlightenment ideals and the Bill of Rights and capitalism and free markets and the invisible hand and Adam Smith and all that. That's what makes you American, because they are right when they say being American isn't an ethnicity. It's not a skin tone. It's not even a religion. It's a set of ideals. And when you break from those ideals, that's what makes you not American. Not how dark you are, how far away you stray from the Constitution, how far away you stray away from James Madison and Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and George Washington. How far away can you possibly stray and still be American? Well, you sure as hell can't be Marxist. So that's where we're at. And I'm not so sure that Ken Paxton's going to win in November. And if he loses, I only see two things. Number one, somehow Tallarico gets roped up in this whole DSA gang of mutants. Or, here's what I think is possible. Maybe not probable, but definitely possible. I think we're going to see one hell of an October surprise on this guy. This is a guy who his entire life has been, or his public facade has been a lie. Yes, he's a Presbyterian seminarian. Oh, really? So he's a pastor? Where's he a pastor? Oh, he's not a pastor. Well, where is he? He's never been a pastor. Well, is he in seminary right now? No, that was decades ago. So what are y'all talking about? What, he went to seminary for a couple years in his early 20s and for the rest of his life, he's now a bona fide religious scholar? No, he is a Christian who hates Christianity. He doesn't like meat, had a vegan campaign, now lied about it, lies about his girlfriend situation, all kinds of stuff. So I am not so sure about November. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, a DEI recipient got busted and then committed suicide. Terrible story. You'll hear it next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, DEI really blew up on someone who so bad he felt the need to kill himself. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820. 93.3 FM, WBAP. Terrible story comes out of, well, the other side of the planet, Cambridge. Did you hear about this guy? Now, I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it when it happened, and I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. I thought it was kind of a funny story because Cambridge had fallen all over itself to do this DEI hire, and he got busted for plagiarism. And the plagiarism was only part of it. The plagiarism, like in his thesis, they ran it through an AI to find plagiarism, and they found more than 100 passages that were plagiarized from this other, I guess, more learned scholar. But then also when you go through his claims and his resume, there are things that he had just completely made up out of whole cloth. He said he had run 30 marathons in 35 days. And I had heard some of the rumor mill, and it was kind of silly. So let me get you all caught up on what the report was when I brought this to you on August 11th, whenever that show was.
I'm Professor of Sociology of Education at the University of Cambridge.
3 years ago, Jason Arday became the youngest ever black professor appointed at Cambridge University, an 800-year-old institution.
Professor Jason Arday joins us now.
He was interviewed about the achievement on CBS News.
If I'm being absolutely candid and honest, not many teachers at school had any belief in me.
Now Arday has fallen from grace, accused of plagiarizing some of his academic writing and lying about claims he ran 600 miles in 6 days to raise money for charity. The scandal's front page news here in the UK, and the former professor of sociology of education has now resigned, saying in a statement that it should not be mistaken for an acceptance of the narratives that have surrounded him. Cambridge University says it's launched an investigation. There are now questions about Arday's autobiography, scheduled to be published this month.
Yeah, when I think back on my college experience, I could easily imagine some of my professors were hired without a whole lot of background checking on him. But this is beyond the pale. This was ridiculous. So now he's gotten busted. And just like a sociopathic narcissist would, he's absolutely devastated by the fact that everyone in the world knows that he's an absolute fraud, a liar, and a fool, and he will never escape it. Every Google search of his name for the rest of his life will be the same embarrassing failure. And he couldn't live like that. And so, sadly, he ended his life. Now, DEI didn't end the life. DEI, I don't know if he shot himself, hung himself, stabbed himself, got bit by a snake. I don't know. But DEI didn't directly kill him. But if not for the DEI actions of other well-intentioned Team Blue activists around him, this guy would still be alive. So in some ways, you can say this whole DEI push got him killed. But I love Bill Maher's summary on his show on HBO on Friday. This is a tough 2 minutes, y'all.
There was a story. I mean, if you're going to talk about academics this week, I just have to bring this up. This Jason Arday story. He's a professor.
Really sad.
Very sad. It was a suicide at the end. I mean, a week ago, it was not that story. He was the first black professor at Cambridge, I think.
Yes.
Young.
And the youngest.
The youngest. Okay, whenever I hear a story like this, first of all, I don't believe anything. I don't believe anything anybody says.
Right.
I have to read 2 or 3 more articles, do a deep dive. But the first story was, okay, this guy was just wanted by the left to be what they wanted him to be, which was the first hero professor, black professor. But really, he was guilty of plagiarism and all sorts of incredible lies. And because they're so captivated by DEI and wanting this, they just let him pass. And I said, well, I'm going to check this out. Mm-hmm. No, that's exactly what happened.
Right.
It's the soft bigotry of low
and it's
expectations.
not just that they let him pass, it's that they ignored the glaring red flags like grammatical errors in his thesis and things in his backstory that just didn't add up, like running 30 marathons in 35 days. And to me, Cambridge has a lot of explaining to do about how they seem to have really cynically used this person who was obviously struggling with mental illness to further their own diversity and inclusion goals.
He didn't learn to speak until he was 18, right? He said he was autistic. He said a number of diseases, he said. He was cancer, brain tumor, epilepsy, locked-in syndrome. I don't know what that is. He said he ran the marathons with a broken leg. He said he was mute until age 11 and illiterate until 18, and then became the greatest professor. And I mean, it's like a prank. Like, can we make liberals who want to believe this actually do it? And they did. And it's not much more complicated than that.
Well,
white people are crazy.
Yeah, and you're allowed to say that because we're not a racist society. If this was a white supremacist society, he'd be scared of saying that. But instead, Bill Maher has to be scared of saying that about every other race but white people. But look how far DEI has gone. DEI, did it even help this guy to get that Cambridge appointment? I mean, he was being set up for failure. But when people talk about how DEI makes people skeptical of the achievements of the preferred special classes that get preferential treatment under DEI, this is why. And the real injustice here isn't that some guy got a job at Cambridge for 3 years making $380,000 and he didn't deserve it. The real injustice is there's an actual guy who worked his ass off and did everything right, and he was leapfrogged by this fraud because the amount of anti-white male antipathy, the amount of anti-white male sentiment was so high they were willing to overlook qualified candidates to go find this guy. Now, if this was really a white supremacist society, is this how we would act? Is this how our institutions would behave? Passing up Asians and white people who are more qualified to go to this clear fraud just so they can wear him as a skin suit for their own virtue signal, even though he's going to fail and or kill himself later? You think that's good? You think DEI is morally upstanding after this story? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, why they're not going to stop. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, what's up, homeowners? James Parker here for Rhino Shield. Look, you're about to fix up your house. Do it right. Don't shortchange your house. Your house deserves better. If you just throw another coat of paint on it to make it look better, you're going to be in the same position. Give it about 10, 15, maybe 20 years max. And what are you going to see? You're going to see it flaking up at the ends. You're going to see it start to peel in on the corners. And this is the time of year when it starts cracking. This is the time of year when your house, it's going to be 108 today. It's just been expanding. And this is when the paint fails. This is when the Rhino Shield shines. Because if you had Rhino Shield on your home right now, it wouldn't be cracking, flaking, or peeling. You know what it would be doing? It would be lowering your energy costs. It would be giving you a 6.9 R factor. It would be blocking out and reflecting 90% of UV rays. It's water resistant. It's 8 to 10 times thicker than paint. And it looks better. It doesn't change the surface texture or anything. Totally breathable. And it will make your house look beautiful and then do a bunch of things that paint can't. If you're worried about the cost, stop. They'll put it on a low monthly payment, so there's really no excuse. Go to rhinoshielddfw.com. All right, people. I don't know about the New York or the 49ers owner got busted for prostitution at a trailer park in Ohio. Look, that'll probably be on tomorrow's show. I didn't see that before the James show. I saw the headline. I can't comment on it, but I've had like 4 people ask me about it. Look, I'll do it tomorrow. Okay. I don't like talk about the stories until I actually know it happened. But look, I know what you're thinking too. You know, oh yeah, Tony Romo can't have a couple of oat sodas and get behind the wheel of a car, but this guy can go rummage through and slay ladies in a trailer park for, I don't know, $140. I don't know what it is. Just leave me alone. Leave me alone. We'll do it tomorrow. All right. We were just talking about how the DEI hire at Cambridge, that got busted a couple weeks ago. He ended up killing himself last week. And it's really just a sad story because it didn't have to be this way. And the takeaway isn't the fact that there was this fraud who was willing to tell all these lies so he could get ahead in the world and make a lot of money and get all kinds of prestige. The real story behind this is, how did it get through? This is a scholarly institution, Cambridge. It's supposed to be filled with smart people. Smart people aren't supposed to be easily duped by ridiculous lies that when we read them out sound stupid. Yeah, I ran 30 marathons in 35 days. Not even believable. But Cambridge fell for it. Now, why did they do that? Well, so they could brag about hiring the youngest black professor in school history. And here's the dirty part. Here's what a lot of people haven't admitted. It worked. It worked. They got all kinds of good press coverage for it. Whoever did the hiring, they got to pat themselves on the back and be like, that was me. And they were cool kids at the cocktail parties, and they got all kinds of virtue signaling and social credit. But it cost this guy his life. I think the real takeaway from the story is just how bad these DEI-obsessed people will overlook flawed and failed candidates, to the demise, to the injustice of actually qualified professors that should have been in that seat for the last 3 years. Royce in Dallas, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Man, thanks for having me.
Hey, Royce.
I just want to ask a question. What about the non-DEI hires that don't deserve those positions, that have been sitting in those positions, where other qualified people of color could have got it? You know, the whole DEI framing, and another thing I want to talk about is why the birth of DEI. Like, where did it come from? Why was it needed? Right? And we still have those issues today. And I hate the narrative that spread that, you know, DEI, so you're not qualified. I mean, I think that's sad that you would paint that light on it, because there's a lot of qualified people the people of color out there that deserve jobs that did not get those jobs but for the color of their skin.
Now, I'm not familiar with this, Royce. What college has a policy of hiring unqualified white people over more qualified people of color? Or less qualified white people over more qualified people of color?
Well, I mean, you could look at the United States of America.
Well, can you name a college that has that as their stated policy? Because I can point you at pretty much every college the opposite.
No. I'm not talking about a policy. I'm just talking about a system, right? I mean, I imagine, and I'd be willing to bet the farm on it, that you could pick any college, University of Texas at Austin, right? Not to call it out, but just to name the flagship institution of Texas. And I imagine you would have some unqualified professors there, right?
Sure.
And I would imagine that there were people of color that were qualified for professorships that did not get it. And so,
sure.
I'm with you.
I'll agree with that.
If you're not qualified for the job, you don't deserve it. I don't care what color your skin is. But unfortunately, we live in America, right, where systems have been set up, right, to go against people of color. And that's just the reality of it. And I think once we deal with that...
Wait, no. Well, you're conflating some things. Where are those systems today?
They're still here. They're present.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the criminal justice system.
What's the opposite of affirmative action? What's it called?
One more time.
Okay, we have affirmative action. We have DEI. These are paradigms and rubrics by hiring practices or admission practices or whatever that you would prefer to get people of color, even if they're not as qualified as a white guy.
I don't think that's what.
Then why would you need it? Then why would you need it?
Because of the history of America, where systems have been put in place to overlook qualified people of color.
Okay, so what is your definition of affirmative action then?
I mean, I guess I'd go with Webster's definition, right? Equality, right? Making sure that everyone has equal access. right? I mean, I would just have to go with Webster's definition. I can't. I don't have my own definition. But if you had to ask me to put one together, that's what it would be.
So affirmative action, you would agree then on the basic definition that if someone is following an affirmative action hiring policies, if you had two equally qualified candidates and one of them was white and one of them was black, affirmative action would tell you to hire the black person, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so now we're not just hiring based on merit. Now we're hiring.
Well, no, you said two equal people, like they were equal. Everything was equal, but the color of their skin.
Right.
Right. That was the premise. So we are looking at two equal people.
Right. And so if there's two equal people and you give preference to the black candidate, now what does the white person have to do to get the job above the black person? They have to be more qualified, right?
Just continue to be white.
That's all it takes. Hey guys, white guys, that's all it takes. Just be white, you get hired. It's no big deal.
America, right? That was the reason that we had DEI, because of those type of practices. Right, and so we had to create some type of consistency or
so give me look, I'm glad you're being this civil about it, because it usually doesn't last this long. So a couple years ago, the president of Harvard, her name was Gay. She got busted and had to step down because she had plagiarized so much throughout her career. Do you have one example of the opposite? Do you have one example of a white guy who was just plagiarizing his ass off and he got hired in front of black people? Do you have one example of that? Can you name one?
Donald Trump?
Yeah, he's kind of voted on there. So no, that's not an example.
Oh, okay. Well, no, because I'm not I'm not a steward of that type of information.
Because it doesn't it doesn't exist, Royce.
Well, no,
you're definitely a steward of this information. You're not an idiot. You know what you're talking about. You've done Google searches and read more than most people. I can tell by talking to you. Keep digging in there. I know you're not an idiot. I can tell by talking to you. Look, you just need to do a little more research, and I think you'll come around. Because if affirmative action isn't, you just admitted, if two equal candidates are going for the same job, you got to give preference to the black person, right? So so is anti-white discrimination? Would that be a fair characterization? No.
No, because
why doesn't that fit the definition of anti-white discrimination?
What if it was black and Asian? What if it was black and Indian? Right.
Well, we know the answer to that. If you're Harvard, then you go for the black person.
Well, I don't know. Cambridge, it was what, 100 years before they had a professor of color? Is that what I heard you say?
I don't know how long it had been.
That's a long time. And what you're telling me is that in 100 years, with all of the inventions and all of the great accomplishments of people of color, that there was not one qualified black candidate to be a professor?
I didn't say that at all. I didn't say that at all. I think it's horrible how the Democrats and racists treated black people throughout American history and Western civilization. I find it absolutely abhorrent. That's one of the reasons I speak so kindly of the Republican Party, who was formed with the specific intent of freeing the blacks and giving them equal rights, and they fought next to them when they got the right to vote, when they got rid of segregation, when they got rid of Jim Crow. I think the Republicans did really good about that. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, you're just in time for Dead or Alive on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, if you want to play right now for 2 tickets to Tim McGraw, call in right now. 800-288-9227. You a Tim McGraw fan? 800-288-9227. We'll load up the phone lines, and then we'll play Dead or Alive. Today's category is Joan. Everyone on the list is going to be a lady named Joan. So 800-288-9227. While our contestants are busy calling in right now, we go to Ken in Arlington. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, Ken.
Hey, so I can't remember the caller's name. The one that's
Royce.
Royce is always talking. So the DEI, when Obama was elected, they just gave it a DEI because he was more qualified than the white guy.
Well, no, that's voting, and that's not the same as DEI, but I get your point.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so the whole thing is that you got to, whether you hire somebody or you elect somebody or hire somebody based on merits or qualifications.
Ken, no, Ken, look, you're not wrong. You're absolutely right. But the reason he's calling in is not to debate the definition of what you just so eloquently laid out. The reason he called in is because his worldview tells him that black people are on the bad end of systemic discrimination. Now, you and I know in the real world that the only systemic discrimination that exists in Western civilization, especially in America, is against straight white males. And when I say systemic, I mean written down into some company's policy or to some law or to some code. Because right now there are federal programs that are for black farmers only or for farmers of color. Right now there are all kinds of programs that are in the government that are specifically for either women or people of color. I'm excluded from pretty much anything that is racially or gender oriented. I should say. I'm just trying to not say anything to befoul the conversation so people can so they can tune out. But you and I both know that all the actual discrimination, the systemic discrimination, is 100% built against us, and we're not asking him to accept what we're saying on this story. We're asking him to change his entire worldview, because if he admits that, then the rest of this stuff, like America's a racist, bigoted place that is lined against black people, it destroys his worldview, because now he has to come up with another excuse on why that community isn't doing as well as its white and Asian counterparts. And if you don't blame white people or Asian people, they don't want to have to blame themselves. No one wants to have to say, well, I'm doing something wrong, so I'm going to have to change.
The whole thing is, remember Beergate with Obama? That white police officer didn't do anything wrong, but in Barack Obama's eyes, he thought the professor was stiffed.
Yeah, he acted stupidly.
Right.
Yeah, we remember that. Listen, but I have to remind myself, too, we're not asking Royce or anyone to agree with us on this situation. We're asking them to change their entire worldview, because he's not admitting that Cambridge guy shouldn't have been hired. What he would be admitting is that the black community's primary problem is not white people, and the change, therefore the solution, isn't to go take white people down a peg or come up with another program. Black people are going to have to be introspective and change things about their own community, and that's a big ask. And I understand why he doesn't just jump to this new worldview in one phone call, but I think Royce, you heard him, he sounded reasonable. I think he'll come around on a long enough time scale. With that, time for Dead or Alive. Or no, wait, we got to take a break and then do Dead or Alive in 4 minutes. No, look, we only have like a minute. Let's take a break. 4 minutes. We'll come back. We'll do Dead or Alive. I got to give away some Tim McGraw tickets. He'll be at Dos Equis Pavilion on September 11th, and we'll do that next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, we're going to play Dead or Alive, and it's going to be a good one here because on the deck, Tim McGraw tickets. Thank you, Mr. Jovi. Welcome to Dead or Alive. Today, we're playing for 2 tickets to Tim McGraw Pawn Shop Guitar Tour 2026, coming to Dos Equis Pavilion on September 11th. Get tickets and information at livenation.com. But someone's about to get a free pair of tickets from The James Show. Today's category is famous ladies named Joan. Famous ladies named Joan. We go to Terry and Terrell. You're on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. You ready for Dead or Alive, sir?
I'm ready.
All right, Terry. Terry,
All right.
Did I see you call in before I even started Dead or Alive? Like, how did you know to call in?
Well, usually when I play, I just pick up my phone call. I saw what time it was. I wasn't even listening to the radio.
You don't even care what the tickets are? What if you don't like Tim McGraw?
Ooh, well, then I'll give them. I'll sell them. I just like winning. Okay.
I guess
really
so.
like the game.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
Let's see if you can get. And I only have 8 famous Joans that I recognize. First one, Joan Crawford, the actress, Dead or Alive.
She's dead.
She is dead. Joan Collins, the actress.
She's alive.
How do you know that so confidently? Joan Jett.
I hated her. We went out last night. Joan Jett's alive.
Okay, yeah, Joan Jett's alive. You did not go out with Joan Collins last night. Joan Rivers, the comedian, Dead or Alive.
She's dead.
She is dead. Joan Baez from Woodstock sings terrible songs, Dead or Alive.
Holy yes. I don't know, but she ought to be dead. I'm going to say she's dead.
No, alive, 85 years old, still hates men.
Damn.
Thank you very much, Terry. Terry and Terrell, that's funny. Sounds like a cartoon character. All right, we're going to Stephen Richardson. You're next up on Dead or Alive. You ready? Steve?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, good. Well, there's only 3 left. We're in Famous Ladies Named Joan for Tim McGraw tickets. Joan Cusack, one of the other Cusacks, is she dead or alive?
Cusack, I think she's dead.
Nope, alive, 63 years old.
I did about how I expected. All right, thanks.
Yeah. Yes, Garrett, she was in Toy Story 5. Of course you would know that, weirdo. Christy in Fort Worth, you're next up on Dead or Alive. You ready?
Yes.
Yeah, say that again.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. I don't know. You kind of sounded like you were 15 for a second. You are above 18, right? You have to be 18 or older to win? Okay. Joan London, the news anchor, Dead or Alive?
Alive.
75 years old. And finally, she's saying, what if God was one of us? Joan Osborne, Dead or Alive?
Joan Osborne. Oh, my Lord. I don't know who that is. I'm going to say dead.
Dang, dude. The song was just in the 90s. Christy, I tried to give it to you, but now we have to, by the rules, it's just going to be a freebie that we give to Tony in Dallas. You got to do absolutely nothing, sir. Absolutely nothing. I mean, I'll give you one just for a formality. Hey, Tony in Dallas.
Yes, sir.
Joan of Arc, dead or alive?
Who is she? She's dead.
There you go. I don't know, some French tart.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, just by luck of the draw and your patience and sticking with us, you just won 2 tickets to see Tim McGraw, the Pawn Shop Guitar Tour, coming to Dos Equis Pavilion September 11th. For the rest of you losers out there, we got to go get our tickets from livenation.com. But Tony and Dallas, if you hang on, regular Garrett will give you a pair of tickets. We'll email them to you, all right?
All right, man. Thanks, Shane.
All right. Well, thanks for playing the easiest version of Dead or Alive. Thank you, Mr. Jovi. Yeah, you know, I really like the technical win. You know, that sort of walk-off home run feeling that you get when the guy that wins the tickets didn't have to do anything. He just won based on the failure of the person who was in the winner's circle and dropped it, just fumbled it at the very end. I find that delicious. All right, let me do some serious news here to sort of end it. The new Iran sanctions were announced right before the James show. And these Iranian sanctions, like, why do we care about this one? What are we doing different here? Well, these Iranian sanctions aren't just for Iran. This is for anyone who does business with Iran. And so we have been letting oil go in and out of the strait, or maybe it'll go over land, and whoever's dealing with it, or whoever's trading with them, or whoever's giving them cash or whatever, we're not punishing China or whoever else is still doing business with them under the table. But I think we're going to start now. Scott Bessent.
Today, at President Trump's direction, the United States Treasury has begun Operation Economic Outcast, an unprecedented campaign against the Islamic Republic of Iran and its enablers. In the Second World War, D-Day marked the historic beginning of a campaign with our allies to target and drive the enemy from its positions, including those in third countries. Today, in that same spirit, we are launching an economic onslaught against Iran's financial connections around the globe. Our objective is to sever every economic lifeline that sustains this tyrannical regime until Tehran stands alone.
All right, and that sounds good and all, but I thought we were doing that yesterday. I thought we already had the baddest sanctions the world has ever known. I thought we already had maximum pressure and the greatest bombing campaign. There's always seems to be more. But the concern here is, okay, so you turn off, you get rid of their access to the banking system and the dollar and all this stuff, so they can still do things through black market channels. Scott Bessent, your Treasury Secretary, says that they are not going to allow any leakage, which is kind of a gross noun here, but I guess it fits.
Today, we are launching Operation Economic Outcast to foreclose every other option available to the Iranian regime. Treasury has mapped every node, every facilitator, and every network that Iran has used to smuggle oil and evade sanctions. Beginning today, the actions of Treasury and other agencies will tighten the noose and block every potential source of revenue that funds the IRGC and the evil Iranian regime. We are enforcing a zero leakage approach. There will be no minimal breathing space for the regime to rebuild its capacity to inflict terror against America and the world.
Yeah, the policy sounds fine. Do we have to use the term leakage? Sounds like you're wearing adult diapers or something. All right. There will be more on that tomorrow. That was just breaking news right before the James show had started. And also, I can guarantee you something we're talking about tomorrow, because I got another email on the break there about the 49ers owner who got arrested for prostitution in Ohio. I get it. I'm making the same connection too. If he's allowed in the NFL, why not Tony Romo? But can y'all give me a break? I can't cover every story, every show. But come back. I'm going to have some hot opinions about that tomorrow. In the meantime, if you need more James Show action, go check out the podcast and all the awesome stuff I have put up in video highlights on the social media feeds for WBAP and me, James Parker. Also, we got a contest you can win at WBAP.com. It's our Labor Day contest is up. Someone's getting $1,000. I hope it's you. I hope it's someone that's listening to the James Show. Enter now for your chance to win. It'll make your Labor Day weekend even better. Go to WBAP.com. It's in the little top headline rotator. You click on the graphic. And thank you very much, because it's sponsored locally by our friends over at Benjamin Franklin Plumbing. Stay put. The great one, Mark Levin's coming up next. I'm James Parker, and this has been The James Show on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP.